to Live, Laugh, Lol.
We've got cancer!
Yay, episode 3.
Yes, episode 3, all about Diagnosis Day, as requested by all the fans out there.
Yeah, so we're going to talk to you about how we found out that we had the big C.
Yeah, we're going to talk to you about who we were with when we were found out, who we told, who we had to tell.
Yeah, and just general symptoms and the situation leading up to it.
Yeah, it's going to be a real fun episode. But what we're going to do to start is just catch up because we've not had time.
Yeah.
How was your week?
Yeah, fine. I've been in Norfolk, actually, where I grew up. So that was really nice. I haven't been back in a couple of years. So went to the beach.
Oh, yeah.
Chilled out.
You had good weather for that, actually.
Yeah, and it was actually, blue skies. Really, really nice.
Who'd you go with?
Yeah, with my sister Beth. So, yeah, we had a few things to sort out because I used to live there, so we have bits and bobs still down there, and had to check some stuff out. But yeah, most of the time we just spent it on the beach.
Living the life of
Which
Riley.
is great, yeah. And you have been in Portugal.
I've been in Portugal, and that was really nice. And when we decided that we'd talk a little bit about our week at the start of the podcast, we said, oh yeah, it'll be so nice to not talk about the cancer side of stuff. But then you realise that it ekes into every part of your life, because in Portugal for this holiday, and I wasn't really this person before, I went to the gym every morning.
Yeah, I'm so impressed at that.
Yeah, I'm really pleased with myself, I'm not going to lie. And then I didn't want it to take up the day, so I'd get to the gym at 7.
Oh my God, on holiday?
I know, but then
are you?
I didn't want to miss the good weather of the holiday by being in the gym, so I had to kind of get it out of the way early doors. And that's just not like me, but I'm taking exercise very seriously, and I have my first muscle, and I've just realised that's what the people are going to want to see.
Yeah, come on.
Okay.
Show us. Whoa, look at that flex.
I've never had a muscle there before, so this was a really big deal to me. I'll keep you updated on how it grows.
Oh, I'm so impressed. I'm the absolute opposite. I should be doing exercise, I think, but...
You've been doing spinning.
Well, yeah, until they said that my lung might have collapsed.
Oh, yeah, that
was
chestnut.
last week's news or the week before, I can't remember.
Jess has got a litre of fluid in her lung, but they're not worried about it. Not worried.
Apparently you can get up to 10 litres in there. Because when he was so I had to have, maybe I should explain some of this. I was feeling short of breath, went into the doctors. They had to do a tap where they drain some fluid off my lung, which sounds gross. Wasn't as bad as I expected it to be. I thought it was going to be painful. But they'd all the whole time, in their casual way, just been you've got a bit of fluid on your lung. A little bit of fluid.
And I would have imagined that as a couple of teaspoons.
Yeah, but he was if you want us to drain the whole thing, we could get a whole litre out of it. And I was like, what?
I didn't think your lungs were big enough.
No, but then I said this to a friend, and she said apparently, that's really small. You can get about 10 litres.
Yeah, so what are you complaining about? That's what I'm hearing.
I should be running a marathon, really.
I don't know what you mean you can't go to the gym and do your spinning jacks.
Yeah, I'm actually just making excuses,
just a litre of liquid. Oh my God.
Yeah.
You got to really think about the poor people out there with 2 litres.
Yeah. Well, now I have maybe 750 millilitres.
Oh, stop it! That's so great.
But yeah, that's all fine, and my lung hadn't collapsed, which was also great news. But I just haven't been gymming.
That's all right. You are undergoing your new type of chemo.
Yeah.
So we can just give space for that. And chemo does tire you out, it makes you exhausted.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, so that's another update from this week, I guess.
Yeah.
Started new treatment, because they said the last chemo wasn't working.
Jess had one of her first appointments where we got some good news. I cannot tell you how happy I was.
Was it?
It was. It was the one where the, let me remind you about this really good news you got, that the fluid in your lung.
Oh, yes, it wasn't infected.
It wasn't infected, yay!
Yay. Gross, but yay.
No, that was really good news because
it was.
The Debbie Downers at the hospital were oh, not looking great over here.
Yeah.
you're all infected and we can't start your chemo and will the antibiotics work and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah,
And
the classic danger of chemo and the white blood cells, like we said before, when they're too low, you could get an infection, and that happened to me. And then they were really freaked out, and they were like, you have to stay in hospital for a week and have IV antibiotics, which was really strange because I actually felt fine in myself, but I was stuck in hospital because they were so scared about my white blood cells.
Yeah, and it's because of your white blood cells. Once they're down, it's really hard to sort yourself out. So thanks to Jess looking after her body and listening to her body, they got to the infection in good time, the antibiotics worked, and we're buzzing over here.
Yeah, now I get the treat of a new chemo.
Woo!
So exciting.
One thing, and this isn't what we're talking about today, but just it's on my mind. One thing is when you're in hospital, the food choices. So we're obviously, we're trying to do like good exercise and good food and be healthy people, living our most healthy lives. And you've been trying really hard at that. So you go into hospital, you want to be healthy, like let's kick this cancer in the arse.
Yeah.
And then your options were like white bread and butter,
jacket potatoes,
super carby. We're kind of on low carb diet to have low sugar.
Yeah, and also this is maybe something we could talk about in another episode when we talk about like chemo and treatment and stuff, but I've psychologically started associating any food that I've eaten when I've had chemo with just nausea and horribleness.
Which is great for if you want to get off the Milky Ways. Or if you want to get off the Mars bars, that's a trick.
But I, for some stupid reason, and it's making me feel queasy even just thinking about it, for some stupid reason, I ate a tuna mayo sandwich.
And now
but the hospital brought round. So now I can't eat sandwiches, but also tuna mayo.
It's a bigger problem. Bigger problem than just the tuna.
Yeah, it's horrible.
And we won't fixate on this because it's off topic, but just to let the people know, she was throwing up at one point, fluorescent green sick.
Yeah, that's another fun.
We'll get to that on a different episode, but I just feel like it's only fair to share this. Really,
spoilers.
The spoilers, the really exciting stuff. A bit cancery. So I had a CT scan as well this week, and I had it at Seacroft. Whereas I've had it at Chapel A and St James's before, and the Seacroft Hospital has a brand new state-of-the-art CT machine. Ooh. So lucky me, getting to go in the new machine. What a pleasant day I had.
Fancy. Well, I don't think I've been to Seacroft, but I've been to one where it's like a shipping container in a car park. And there's a CT machine in there. Was it that one?
Seacroft did have at a time loads of outbuildings like that. They're doing loads of work at it at the minute, and I don't know. It's my first CT one there, so I don't know where it used to be or if it's moved.
Oh, okay.
I don't think it's Chapel A, and I don't know where else it would be. So this is the great thing. You get to explore and tour the hospitals of your region. So aren't we lucky?
Woo!
So that's a bit about our week.
Yeah.
A bit about Portugal was great.
Yeah.
The weather
actually didn't speak much about Portugal.
No, we didn't.
Just the exercise.
It was a tiny bit of rain, a bit of cloud, but it was a good thing because it meant we stayed out for a long time. You don't worry about being burnt, and we did a lot of walking, and I got a nice tan, and that was really important to me.
Yeah, you are looking very brown.
Thank you. She didn't say it earlier, so she's been forced to say it now. So it was a lovely holiday. I went with Mark's family, and just in case you're listening, guys, had the best time.
Nice.
Yeah.
What did you do anything in particular?
We wanted to do activities, but all the water sports were closed. The season hadn't quite started, and we did go in the waves in the sea.
And was it freezing?
I don't know if it wasn't that cold. But the shock of how big and how strong the waves were took the sense of any temperature out of my mind. When you do that stance and you like bend your knees and you hold yourself in on the sand.
Yeah.
I was just doing that, and then I felt like I'd had enough, and that day wasn't my day to go, so I was getting out the sea.
Oh, okay. Well, good job you tried though.
Yeah. God loves a trier.
Yeah, well done. So we should probably talk about the actual topic.
Yes,
Diagnosis Day.
Diagnosis Day.
And how we found out. So do you wanna?
Well, do you wanna?
Well, All right then.
Someone's got it.
So I guess for those that don't know, like a lot of the typical symptoms of bowel cancer are like changes in your bowel movements, or if there's any blood, or if you have a rapid loss of weight for no kind of reason, which I didn't have any of that. One of the symptoms is being really, really tired. But I'd been like working away and I've been on holiday.
Tiredness is a horrible symptom because it can just be put to so many things.
Exactly. So I was telling myself I was just knackered from work or whatever, or travel. But then it actually turned out that I needed 2 blood transfusions.
What a start to cancer life.
Yeah, so I had really pushed it there.
You really had.
But I was getting pain across my right shoulder, which apparently is connected to your liver. There's a nerve that connects your liver and your shoulder, and your brain doesn't know the difference. So I was getting loads of shoulder pain. I'd gone to 111 and they'd said, go to a physio because you've done a trigger point.
Wait, this was in February 2024, wasn't it?
Yeah. And then the pain kind of went. I'd been going to the physio. The poor physio was obviously trying his best, but
wasn't able to massage the cancer out.
No, exactly. Poor guy. And then, so the pain had got really, really bad, and I'd gone into the GP. She'd referred me for a scan, or an ultrasound. They did an ultrasound, and then they found that it was my liver, loads of tumours, really swollen. Disaster.
You found out you had stage 4 cancer straight away.
Yeah.
They knew there were tumours in your liver, but they knew that the tumours in your liver were not liver cancer.
Yeah, so they said it's not typical for liver cancer to present like that. So they then went looking for a primary tumour and looked in the scans and found out there was a bowel.
But I guess
tumour.
You found out that it came from the bowel a few weeks later.
Yeah, well, it all kind of blurs into one because of the trauma.
The trauma, PTSD.
But yeah, they said, I think pretty soon after that, they said it was a bowel tumour. And then they got very excited because I'm young and slim. And they were like, oh my God, there's a genetic type of bowel cancer that's Lynch syndrome. And it presents in younger people, and because you're not like overweight or whatever,
this might be you.
Might have Lynch syndrome. And then they were like,
and they were happy about that.
Immunotherapy, and it has incredible results with immunotherapy. And then they
got all your hopes up, which is a rarity. So that's
the positivity started at the start and then quickly
declined.
Nosedived.
Yeah.
But then I had to have loads of other tests, including a colonoscopy, which was a very enjoyable experience.
Jess at the time didn't like talking about poo.
No, I mean, toilet humour and all that, it's just not for me. And then
she's had to get used to it.
And then I got bowel cancer.
I know, of all the ones.
The worst, well, I mean,
it's
not the worst one. The worst one for me, because
she's having to be really open about her poo habits.
Yeah, and
I've just realised that I'm saying this on a podcast. Whoops.
I'm not going to discuss it with everyone.
Okay, yeah. And that was the end of that?
Yeah. Oh my God, but no, the colonoscopy was the worst. And then I had to...
Did they give you a painkiller for the colonoscopy?
Yeah, they said they were going to give me a sedative.
Like to almost send you to sleep.
Yeah, but it really didn't.
Tight.
At the end they said... Because I felt totally normal. I was like lying on the bed. It's the most undignified thing that you
do you think they just didn't give you enough?
Yeah, they said they gave me a really small dose. But some people don't have any drugs when they have it. It's actually okay.
Brave.
But the worst bit was like what I didn't realise, that I'd be conscious for the whole thing. And there's this huge TV screen next to you, and maybe too much information, but I didn't realise that they were going to turn the camera on before they went inside. So there's me making small talk with the little doctor on my other side, being like, how's your day? Been busy, blah, blah, blah. Meanwhile, there's a massive HD picture of my
your
actual
arse.
bumhole
Oh no!
for the whole theatre to see. And I'm just lying there like,
no.
blah, 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 chatty. It was awful.
I can't believe they put the camera on so soon.
And then maybe they were waiting for me to stop chatting. I turned around and I was like, oh God.
When is this woman going to shut up so we can just shove this up her ass?
Yeah, and then I saw it. I watched the whole thing.
And was it interesting?
Saw all my insides.
Did you see a tumour?
Yeah, I saw when they got to the tumour.
Is it blocking your pipes? Or is it on the side of your pipes?
Well, it is growing into my bowel, but they said it's not fully blocking it.
Great.
But yeah, I could see it on the screen, and then they took like little samples of it.
Yeah,
with a little clipper thing.
Was it a butterfly one where it makes a bang, like quite a loud noise?
No, it was just like a tiny little
nip.
Yeah, just nipped some bits off, and then so obviously then I knew that it was cancer. There's bowel cancer, and then but I couldn't start treatment until they'd confirmed what type of bowel cancer it was.
And then you found it wasn't Lynch.
Yeah.
And that was sad.
That was sad. No immunotherapy for me.
Not yet. Not yet.
Until they find some immunotherapy.
Exactly. All in good time.
Yeah.
So you found out you had symptoms, went to the doctors and physio and stuff in Feb. And then it was June when they found out that you had tumours in the liver.
Yeah.
And they confirmed it was stage 4 cancer. It had spread to your liver, but you didn't know where from. And then I guess a couple of weeks later, you had your colonoscopy and found out it was stage 4 bowel.
Yeah.
And it was in your lung.
Then I had to wait 4 weeks for the lab to do the tests on the bowel like biopsy, which was really stressful because I was still in pain. Like I still had all the liver stuff.
Of course, yeah. You just want to get started on treatment. Exactly,
but so then they came back and then they confirmed what type of bowel cancer it was, and then I could start chemo.
And woohoo! Chemo, yay! Isn't it interesting? Just today we're talking about how you've got to be. We're in this funny position, and we are grateful. You're grateful for the chemo, and obviously we've just cheered it. But isn't it annoying to have to be grateful for chemo because you'd rather not be in this position to start with, and yet we are grateful. It's just it's one of those double-edged swords.
Yeah, it's really weird because when I found out the last chemo wasn't working and then I couldn't have treatment because I had the infection, it was like, oh God, what's the cancer doing? That was awful,
yeah.
And then
the chemo started again. Yay!
Yeah, and you're like, yes, but actually,
I don't want to be on chemo. Yeah, I don't want this cancer, and therefore to need the chemo.
Exactly.
It's such a funny one because we are grateful for it.
Yeah.
We've not worked that out how we feel about it all yet. No. That'll come with time.
Yeah. How did you find your diagnosis?
I was going to ask you who you were with, but should I do my diagnosis first?
Yeah.
Okay, so Mark and I were trying for kids. Mark, am I okay to say that? Mark, okay.
Do you want an alias?
Can you ask me the question again? I'm a bit lost.
So how did you find out about your diagnosis?
Oh yeah. So Mark and I were trying for kids, and I just had the coil out, and we were like a couple of months into trying, and I felt a lump in my boob, and I thought, and my period was late, that's it. So I thought, okay, my period's late, there's a lump in my boob. It doesn't feel exactly how people say pregnancy symptoms feel, but maybe that's what this is. I was probably also trying to egg that on because that's what I really wanted to happen. I wasn't like desperate to start a family straight away, but obviously with the intention to. So then my period started like 5 days after I noticed the lump. So I thought, oh, okay, I'm not pregnant. Had a period. Maybe this is TMI as well. It's a very TMI episode.
No, I think it's all right.
People just love to hear it.
Late periods aren't a symptom of breast cancer. That was just coincidental.
I think so. Or maybe my body was trying to get pregnant is what I think.
Right.
But I don't really know. I had a late period, and then after my period, I still had the lump. So I went to book an appointment with the GP, and the GP said to me, and this is a bit I find really interesting and one is good for people to know. The GP said to me, because I noticed the lump before the period and I still had it after, that was more of a red flag. So I'd had a period in between and it was still there. And she tested me, and I think this is really common, lying down, and she feels your boobs when you're lying down. And you couldn't feel it for me when I was lying down because it would like sink into my chest cavity. And then I would sit up and I could like put my boob into position and like put my fingers around it like a golf ball.
Oh, so it was quite big by the time you noticed.
Yeah, it was definite. I think that's what's good about a breast cancer symptom, like something physical to hold on to.
Yeah.
So I put my fingers around it, and then she did, and she said, oh yeah, the period thing, and I can feel it, so I'll send you to the one-stop shop at St James's. So that's a 2-week wait for a hospital appointment. I had it in 1 week, which was excellent. And then you go in for your one-stop shop, and I'd gone in alone thinking, you know, this is, oops, I'm wasting hospital time. And I know there's a lump, but I'm sure it's nothing. And then I went to the clinician, I think it is, and she did the same test, feeling it when I was laying down. And she said that she was sure I'm fine. And I said, feel it when I'm sat up. And she said, we don't really do that. We feel it when you're lying down. And that unnerved me because she hadn't felt it. And I said, you know, from here onwards, what do I do? Because I know there's a lump there, which was good mental power because you do know it's there. So I said, do I measure it? Am I aware of it? Do we not care about it? It's definitely there. So what, like, how do I go forward? Like, do I come back at a certain point or like after a certain length of time?
God, that's bad though, that they nearly dismissed it.
Yeah,
and you had to be like, well, what? There is definitely a lump, so what am I meant to do about it?
I think so. I mean, she did send me for an ultrasound, and I'm not clear on whether she sent me for the ultrasound because I had all those questions, or whether she should have sent me for one anyway. But she was like, I can tell you're worried, you're going to go for an ultrasound, but here's your dismissal letter. After your ultrasound, you won't see me again, you'll just pop off. All right. I text Mark, oops, I think I'm wasting everyone's time. I wasn't upset about it, but just I'm having an ultrasound, but it's all okay. And then I go for the ultrasound. I have the loveliest lady there. We still recognise each other and she still says hello to me. Yeah, she's so nice. And she is doing my ultrasound, which is one of those where they're holding the machine on you, like the baby ones.
Like when it's the babies, yeah.
So they're right in your face when you have an ultrasound scan. So you're really present to the outcome. And they're looking at the screen, which is right next to your head, and you can see it. And that's when like it all changes, because obviously she sees the lump is there, and I'm thinking, okay, it could still be a cyst. I knew there was a lump, but maybe it's a cyst. That seems really common. Maybe it's benign, whatever they're called. There's loads of things it could be still. And then she starts spending loads of time on my underarm, and that unnerved me because I was like, why are you at my underarm? I've come here for one problem only.
Yeah.
And then her attitude became less chill. I think in a good way, as in it like helps prepare you. And so after that, I said to her, and I was really glad for this transparency, I said, you know, could it be a cyst? And she said, a cyst is liquid, and I can tell you for sure it's not a liquid, it's a solid. Whether it's benign or not, she couldn't tell me, but I knew that I had a solid mass, and that freaked me out. And then I went straight for a mammogram, then I went to have a biopsy, then I went for another mammogram.
All in the same day?
All within a really quick period. I was in a different waiting room at this point. I think they were panicked. They knew what was going on. Yeah, ultrasound, mammogram, biopsy, mammogram. Then I'm back in the waiting room, and I'm on my laptop doing work, so I've taken the afternoon off work to do this. So I'm on my laptop trying to get work done. And I'm also texting Mark like, the energy has shifted. I'm not sure what's going on.
No.
Mark saying, I'll just come to the hospital, I'll come join you. I'm saying, but what's the point? Because surely any minute I'm about to be dismissed. I've had all the tests. Like, what's the point in you coming now? It's half an hour drive for Mark to get there. And then I'm not seen for ages. I'm just sat there. They're really lovely. They offer me a cup of tea, but I'm just sat there off the laptop. Like, energy is quite high. Texting my friend who's a doctor saying, you know, you need to find out as much as you can from the meeting you have with the lady. That was the person that had originally done my check, I think the clinician. I was like, okay. And then I text Mark saying, you know, I'm getting a bit nervous. And he said, all right, I'm going to drive to you. Look, if you've left, I'll just turn around and we'll go home. So he's set off to see me and I'm called in. He's driving and I'm now in my meeting. And they're just like, yeah, so we're 90% sure you got breast cancer.
Oh, God.
I know. And
And having that on your own.
I know.
To be honest, I'm surprised they didn't, because for me, I think one of the things that I knew was bad was when they're like, have you got someone with you? And then you're like, uh-oh, why should I have someone with me?
You know that's bad.
Yeah, you're like, oh, God, am I about to have a breakdown?
Yes. They know it.
Oh, so they didn't even ask. They were just like, come on in.
Yeah, I don't think they asked.
Let's
They just
give you your diagnosis.
Well, I'd been there all afternoon, so they'd asked at the beginning.
Yeah.
I think. Probably, I don't even know if they did, but I'm assuming they checked it on me. They were lovely.
Yeah.
And then I went for the meeting, and interestingly, to me, hopefully to everyone, the thing that over the next 2 weeks you wait for confirmation of whether that is 100% is breast cancer or whether it was all a big ghastly lie. But they told me with a lot of confidence, and you know, we're 90% sure it's breast cancer, and actually it wasn't, it might not be, it was worst case, it's a different cancer that's metastasized to your breast.
Oh.
So I felt like it's either breast cancer or it's really, really shit. I didn't feel like it's breast cancer or it might be okay.
Oh.
And
it's a weird way of softening the blow.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is.
Like, this is the worst it could be.
But I'm hoping 90% sure it's just standard everyday breast cancer.
Okay.
So they told me that, and then I didn't really know what to do with myself. Like, what do you do? So I was kind of getting up out of my seat. Okay, I guess I'll go. What should I stay? Do I go? What do you want from me?
Yeah.
So it's just, should I go? And then there was a nurse in the room with her when she told me, and the nurse said, "Can you find your way to your car? Do you need a cup of tea? Have you got work tomorrow? You don't need to go to work tomorrow. Who are you going to tell? Who are you going to talk to? Do you need guidance? Do you need a tissue? Let's just sit here for a bit." This thing kept coming back. Can you find your way to the car? And in my future, a little bit later, that was what made me realise I'd been told bad news. So when I would relay the story, being told I had 90% sure that it was cancer didn't make me feel stressed. But them saying, "Can you find your way to your car?" made me feel really stressed. I was like, something must be really bad because they don't think I can make it to the car.
Yeah.
And it turns out I couldn't make it to the car. I was like, of course I could make it to the car. And then I went downstairs.
It's delayed reaction, isn't it?
And
then
I got
it hits
lost.
you.
And hospitals are really big.
Yeah.
And I found this guy in scrubs, so I knew he worked there. And I'd obviously looked really teary-eyed. And he said, "You okay?" I said, "I don't know where the car park is." And he was so nice. And he said, "Just follow me." And he walked like 3 steps ahead of me. So I didn't have to make small talk, but I had someone to follow. I thought, he knows what he's doing here.
Yeah.
So that was really a nice guy. And then I met Mark at the car park and I had to tell Mark, and we just had a bit of a cry. Like, ooh.
God, yeah.
Not expecting that. And
that is not what you expect.
Then we had to drive home separately.
Why?
Because
Are you driven by Finn?
Yeah, I know.
Oh.
But then I rang my friend on the way home, who's a doctor, and I was telling her all about it.
Right, okay.
And she was really good to talk to.
So can we go back to when you had your biopsy? I'm curious. So they had to literally cut a bit out.
Yeah,
when you were there. Like, how did they do
yeah,
that?
so this really nice ultrasound lady, my lump was on this side, so she was going to come for the biopsy here. And I said, "So sorry, but I might want to wear a bikini. So could we do the biopsy from
the side?
This side?" And she said, "Of course, completely understand."
Oh,
so
what a legend.
she went in and did the biopsy, and it made this really loud bang, bang, bang. She does 3. And then they also did a biopsy on my underarm, which was an aspirated biopsy. It's a bit different.
And could you feel it, or did they numb it?
They numbed it. Couldn't feel the boob one. The underarm one really was more painful. And the problem is with the underarm one, it's like this big needle, and they're wangling it.
Oh.
It's not like this solid thing. These lymphs are so tiny, like the size of a pea, and they're trying to get in and scrape bits out. So there's a lot of movement.
Oh God, that sounds horrible.
That one wasn't great, but it was fine. I'm not trying to scare anyone. Like, it is actually. You get through these things, no problem. Everyone was building up mammograms to me. Oh, a mammogram. You might have heard the stories about mammograms. You might have heard.
Oh.
Mammograms were fine. They were fine for me. And I had a mammogram, then a biopsy where they were pissing about my boob, and then a mammogram. and
Oh.
it was fine. They really
Wow.
do squish it, but it was fine.
Oh, okay. And then, so I suppose you've also had 2 diagnosis days in a way, haven't you? Because that was the first one, and then mastectomy,
then I had a
which we can talk about in
another time.
Yeah.
Then I had a mastectomy. I was having IVF, and those things pushed my bone scan and CT scan down the line. And then I had bone scan and CT scan in September, and then from those scans they found out it was stage 4 because it was in the bones. So that was an awful time because I found out in the car
Again.
There's a lot of car stories actually linked to me.
Driving about.
Mark and I were off to the Lake District for a couple of days. We'd cancelled all our summer holiday plans for IVF and surgery and whatever. And I was a school teacher, so our holidays were during the summer holiday. Anyway, that was fine. It didn't matter. And we were going to go away for a couple of days to the lakes, and it was going to be lovely. And the nurse rang me. Hey, Sammy.
Sammy.
The nurse rang me.
Oh, now you want to be friends.
I got a call from a lady saying we need to book you in for an urgent appointment, and I knew I didn't need an urgent appointment. I'd had my pre-assessment for chemo, my next appointment was chemo, and I knew nothing else was needed. You learn the system a little bit, and then she rang to say it's urgent, and I knew it was bad news because I knew I didn't need it, and she wouldn't tell me why it was. I don't think she knew why. And then I rang my breast cancer nurse, where you basically ring and leave a voicemail and then they'll get back to you. And I said, I'm anxious. I don't think I need this appointment, but it's been booked in. And my breast cancer nurse rang me back on the drive to the lakes and said, oh, I really didn't want to tell you this. And straight away, you know, your heart sinks.
Yeah.
I didn't want to do this over the phone. And I just panicked, and she just said, oh, it's in your bones. And I didn't really understand what that meant, so I just said, what does that mean? What does that mean? What does it mean? What does it mean?
New fact. Okay.
And I didn't really find out what it meant. I just knew it was in the bones, and she wasn't able to tell me much more. My CT scan hadn't come through yet. We didn't have all the information, but they knew it was a problem. So we hung up. Mark and I had a wonderful few days away. It did not mar our weekend, you'll be pleased to know.
That's good.
And then went into the hospital for the emergency appointment, and they were running late, standard. Don't mind them running late. People are having a hard time in their appointments, whatever.
I always overrun. I'm the reason that
I overrun too.
Got 10 million questions.
Yeah, we've got loads of questions. Maybe we're having a moment. That's okay if other people doing the same. So I took the leaflet that said breast cancer in bones, and I was like, I'm not going to read it. That'd be crazy. But then we were waiting, and I was like, I'll just read the first page. Just the first page, because that can't be too bad. I'm not going to go into like the icky detail. Literally the first page says, breast cancer in the bones, also known as advanced, stage 4, incurable.
Oh, no.
I know, and I was like, oh my God, Mark, I don't.
Oh no.
What am I reading?
You don't want to find out from a leaflet in the waiting room.
No,
do
you don't. So then I went into my appointment, and the guy, honestly, didn't know me at all. He was reading from the screen. He was like, what do you know? I said, I know it's in the bones. Which bones do you know it's in? I know it's in these ones. Oh, it's also in this one. I said, oh, right, okay.
Oh, God.
He said, have you had an infection in your tooth recently? I said, no infection. Oh, well, it might be in your jaw as well. Might it be in the jaw?
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, that seemed really, me being like a novice, a layman in terms of medical stuff, it being around my head felt really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I don't know, closer to my brain. Not that there's a link, I don't think, in distance, but it felt uncomfortable. And yeah, he was just like, yeah, so, and I reassured him time and time again I didn't have an infection in my tooth, but he seemed surprised by that. So then he was like, maybe it's in your tooth. So I went through a whole dentist thing, and it wasn't in my jaw. I found out a few weeks later, so that was all fine. But yeah, it was a really uncomfortable meeting, and I left that meeting thinking I was in palliative care, because I said to him, oh, so should we just have some surgery on the old spine, get that little bit taken out, or on the rib, pelvis, let's get rid and get some bionic ones in. Like, old people have hip replacements, I'll have one. Sorry if you've had a hip replacement and you're not old. And he just said, no, we can't do that. No point in that. Well, what about the chemo? I was meant to start that next week.
No point in the chemo.
No point in the chemo. And I was a bit like, this is panic-inducing.
Yeah, because then it's like, you've got all this bad news, it's stage 4, and actually we're not giving you any treatment options.
Yeah, so good luck with that, off you pop. But I rang the nurses the next day and they were, what? You don't have a treatment option? That's crazy. Come back in, we'll sort it out. And I did.
Oh, okay.
And I felt much better after that. It was just like a bad appointment.
Yeah, I did the same. I was like, can you just, I kept asking my oncologist for a liver transplant, and he was like, no, you can't have one.
It's so tight. Just give us one, please.
My friends were like doing that thing from Hunger Games, like, I'll donate my liver to you. I was like, thanks, guys, but
what's it? It's like, I am
not
tribute
allowed.
or
Yeah,
something
exactly.
like that.
My friend Emma was like, if you want some of my liver, I'll give it to you.
You can have it, but they're so fussy. They're just like, they don't trust that the cancer's really gone, and they don't want to waste bones and liver on people. They're just like, it'll just come back. Don't you worry.
Yeah. So
who went with you for your appointments?
My friend Laura, I think, was there when I initially found out that it was on the initial liver one. But because I had so many, weirdly in my head, I don't remember the timeline. I just remember various friends being there when being told or telling other people that I've got terminal cancer. So
also, you've had so many bad news appointments, as in, I only mean this because obviously then Jess's chemo wasn't working, so she had to swap. So I feel like maybe they're all running into...
Yeah, there's a lot of different appointments. But yeah, I think Laura was there in my initial one, and I remember just him saying, it's in your liver and it's cancer. And I was, because very dark, but both of my parents have had cancer and passed away from cancer. And I'd only lost my mum a year before.
And you were on a big hype on how to stay cancer-free.
Yeah, I was literally I'm going to be so healthy. I was running. I was eating well. And so I literally, I laughed at him when he told me. I was
you were going to counselling to get rid of trauma.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, you cannot be serious. It was just the last thing I expected. I was like, it's just going to be my bile duct or something, a little bit of something going on. They'll just whip it out and I'll be on my way.
Yeah, you're like,
might have to have an operation, but
that's it.
Yeah.
Jess is thinking, I've come from a place of knowing about cancer, understanding cancer, and I'm not going to get cancer.
Yeah, I've had so much bloody cancer, and now I've got cancer.
It's really tight.
So I laughed at the guy. I was like, you can't be real. And then obviously cried.
Yeah.
Because it hits you in a wave.
Yeah, so but I'm glad you had a little giggle. I'm glad you got that in there. Yeah. Was that to the same oncologist you see now?
No, I had that was a random one. He was a liver doctor, I think, and then when they found out it's not liver cancer specifically,
you moved.
I moved, and I had a different oncologist, and she was good but very sciencey. And so I don't know if anyone in the medical profession is going to watch this, but I complain about my current oncologist, but actually his delivery and communication is a lot better than my original oncologist, because there was a weird period of time where they were like, you can enter into some trials, but if you choose to go down the trial route, you can only start with this chemo. But if you don't want to go into trials, you start with this other chemo. So what's your decision?
I hate that.
And I was like, how am I meant to make a decision? I'm not a medical professional. Tell me what I'm meant to do.
Yeah, that is tough.
And then luckily, I don't know if it's luckily, but the decision was made for me because of the type of cancer I had. Once the biopsy results were back, they were like, actually, you can't do trials now. We'll just give you the standard.
I love that. Chemo. It's that same thing. Luckily.
Yeah.
Luckily, you actually don't qualify for all those good things in the trials, which is actually a bit shit, but you feel grateful for not having to make decisions. Because I've been in a similar but not as intense boat. Mine was just about, do you want a lumpectomy or a mastectomy? And I was just thinking, but I don't know I want the cancer gone.
Yeah.
So could you just make that happen? And could you make it happen and think about how I can get another boob later down the line? Would you rather me have a lumpectomy or a mastectomy to get rid of cancer and then get another boob in? Like, what do you think? I've never performed surgery before.
Yeah, and we've not spent how many years in the medical profession.
But to actually make you decide, like, what route you want over a trial and chemo that's like your life.
And I was really stressed out with it because I was like, I just don't know, and it really feels like so much pressure to make that decision because you're like, what if I make the wrong decision?
This is a huge
and then you've
thing.
only got yourself to blame when things don't work, and you always will think,
should I have done the other option?
So
that's
I was
really
so glad
tough.
when the decision was made for me.
Well, I'm glad. So, well, we've covered diagnosis days.
Mm-hmm.
We've covered who we went with.
Yeah.
We have covered what symptoms we had.
Yeah, and although, what are the like standard listed breast cancer symptoms? Are there any other than just having a lump?
I don't know.
Because I feel like that's the obvious one that people go for, isn't it? I suppose with breast cancer it's more...
Oh, I know if it's... What I've heard before is if it's in bones, like mine, that people get achy bones.
Okay, makes sense.
So, yeah, it's one of those a bit like tiredness though, like, did I do something at the gym?
Yeah.
Oh my God, when I found out about stage 4, I decided to do this running a mile thing in October, and I wasn't very fit, and I therefore couldn't breathe on my little mile, and I was like, it's in the lungs. Oh my God, the cancer's spreading really rapidly. It's in the lungs. But you see, that wasn't a real symptom. That was just me being really unfit.
Yeah.
It's really, really hard to know what's going on at first. You just feel like your body's doing its own thing and you don't get it.
And it is scary when you first start or find out and first start treatment, because you're like, everything could be a side effect, and you don't know what's a serious side effect or what's a all right one.
You don't know when to worry.
Yeah.
And they tell you, especially for chemo, but they even tell me for mine, they're like, if you have any symptoms, if your temperature raises at all, ring this number and come into hospital. And so they really set your like anxiety levels quite high, because then you think, well, I coughed, so is this going to suddenly, my white blood cell count's really low and I just coughed, so does that mean I've got an infection I'm not going to be able to fight? And it's never mind the cancer, it's the infection that's going to kill me because my white blood cells are so low. Like, it does panic you. But once you've had a few months on your treatment, you kind of get to know your body and you think, actually, I've had a cough before, it's all okay. So things settle down, don't they?
And you like, the amount of times I've been into like the oncology assessment ward, like with various different things, you do get to figure out eventually
where you're at,
what might be serious and what might not be, which is
But if you think there's a slight worry, ring the number and go. They're never going to think, can't believe you came in.
No.
They're always going to be glad that you went in. So ring the number, go in, and don't worry about it. Just, you'll eventually get to a point where you'll be more confident. But if you're worried, go in.
And you get to know all the nurses on the ward.
There you go. Nice. Yeah, you get to be. I do like it when the nurses recognise me when I go in.
Me too.
You're like, oh hey, just me again. Oh, you're looking brown. Oh yeah, I just went on holiday. How have you been? It's just nice.
Yeah.
Right, well, I think that's diagnosis day. That ended up being a lot longer than I thought it would be, so we hope we've not bored you.
Yeah, lots to cover though.
Loads to cover. What we want to say is, if you guys have any questions or comments about something you'd like to learn about or like us to talk about, then please do let us know, because we are asking our friends and family, you know, what do you want us to cover, and that's basically how we're doing this at the minute.
Yeah, so you can either ask us on YouTube comments underneath the video, or I hope you'll all be following our Instagram page as well, so you can like message us there.
Yeah, DM us, that's what they say. Yeah, please DM us. Send us a DM on Insta.
Yeah.
And it's Live Laugh Lol, We've Got Cancer. You'll find us. There's not many people with this name. People don't dare. It's a little bit in your face. It might be a bit too in your face, but
yeah, we had to go with something. Yeah,
we've done it now. It's true. Yeah, in fact, we will do an episode at some point on the Belle Gibson apple cider vinegar. You know, that woman in Australia that didn't actually have cancer?
Yeah, taking advantage of vulnerable people like us.
Like us. So thank you for listening.
Yeah.
I hope this was a good one. And yeah, leave us comments. We want to know what you guys think and what you're interested in.
Yes.
Thanks, guys. See you next week.
Bye.